knowing our child and their uniqueness really aids us in our parenting, in our walking alongside them, in our discipline, in our discipleship, in our training, all in our habit forming, what we help them to develop good habits in. If you know your child and the way they tick, the things they love, the things that are weaknesses for them, this will aid you in your parenting journey. So how does the unique personalities and giftedness and all that comes with being a human being play into our parenting of, in our case, our 5 different children? How has that affected our parenting? So
that is the topic of today's MAVEN Parent Podcast.
That's what we're going to talk about, because it's probably no surprise to any parent who's listening, but your kids, if you have more than one, will be different than the other ones.
Yes, they will be different. And yet, at the same time, there's a lot of similarities.
There can be. Some of our kids are not similar at all. Like, they are polar opposites. I'm thinking especially of our number 4 kid and our number 5 kid. Like, they could not be more opposite.
That's true. That's true. But there are general truths about them. We know that, of course, they're both little sinners.
True.
That's true about both. That's true about all of them. That's true about all of our kids. It's very true. It's very true about our oldest son, who sits behind the camera.
It's true about their father.
Our kids are very sarcastic.
Yes.
And I think they were born that way, though. There's a genetic link.
Was that biological, or was that nurtured in them?
Biological, genetic.
Yeah, exactly.
DNA. It's in the DNA.
So thinking about our 5 kids and thinking about this topic of parenting and how, we do this well, we've
Was that a statement? Was that a statement of fact? You said, we do this well.
No. Oh, that was like question mark. Like,
okay.
How do we do this well?
I wanted to clarify. I didn't know if you were being
I'm just declaring
bold and confident.
We have done this well. No, like, how to do this well, question mark. And with, we talk a lot on this podcast about the one thing that is important to keep in mind as you navigate listening to this podcast, reading parenting books, reading parenting magazines, listening to people talk about parenting, is that you want to make sure that they have a correct view about human beings. Mm-hmm. And so what's that correct view? It's that we are image bearers, valuable human beings. With
all kinds of capacities. So we're valuable, made in the image of God, but the image of God means that we reflect God in all kinds of ways. We have the capacity to think rationally, to act morally, to experience emotions and affections and all of this, and to have personalities. And that
is good.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about your kids, and especially maybe thinking about your kids that are different than you are, your kids, your stepkids, your grandkids, who's ever listening, and how maybe sometimes it's hard to see the good in people who are different than us, because we think kind of the way we are is pretty good. And so you can have a kid that is so drastically different than you, and then it's hard to see that their qualities as good. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking about even gender stuff. So dad with daughter, and in general, the teenage years and puberty can bring about a lot of emotion with girls.
Oh, yes.
And so
lots of emotion.
Okay, we don't need commentary. So that can bring an emotion, and to a middle-aged dad who's, not super emotional.
Who are you calling middle-aged?
You. And so you can look at the emotions and sensitivity of a teenage girl and think, this is bad. This is not
I
a
will
good thing.
confess, I've thought that quite a few times.
Now, of course, there are weaknesses and strengths to all these things, but I'm just trying to give an example of things we see in our kids that are different from us, and it's hard to see that as good, but we are all image bearers, and the way we are unique is actually good and beautiful, and we want to see that. We want to view our kids that way. We want to view our spouses that way. We want to view all the human beings around us in that way.
And let's think about the kind of the second half of human nature too. Our fallenness, right? Kind of made in God's image, beautiful, fallen, broken, and worse than broken, rebellious. And that gets played out uniquely amongst our kids as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some unique ways in which Micah sins, and there are some unique ways in which Ella sins, and Paige sins, and Jonah sins, and Lexi sins. I mean, they find all kinds of unique ways to sin. So we need to talk about that aspect too, because but the point is, it will inform how we parent each of those unique personalities uniquely.
Yeah.
There's some uniqueness there. Now, of course, there's some similarities. There's some sameness because human beings, even though they're distinct and unique, they're also, they all share a common human nature, right? So when it comes to things like respecting mom or dad, we're not like, oh, you're unique.
That's harder for you.
That's more difficult. So we'll let you off the hook for that.
Actually, you'll hear this excused with kids who do have really strong personalities and kind of want to lead and control situations. And we can dismiss, oh, that's their personality type. Oh, that's just how they are. And so they're allowed actually to be rude and disrespectful of mom and dad or grandma and grandpa or whoever else it is. And so in some ways, even though our 5 kids are different, there are areas where we have the exact same expectations for all of our kids. And that's what you're talking about. So one of those is, that no matter what your personality or how you're feeling in the moment, respecting mom and dad, respecting the other people who live in your home with you, that this is a non-negotiable. It doesn't matter your personality type.
Yeah. Treating people with kindness. I mean, we would say that the different personality types even can relate to kindness because we got a couple of kids that are very, maybe more black and white. And, a couple of kids that are a lot more relational. And the more black and white kids can maybe be more blunt. And so for them, it might be a little more, there needs to be a little more intentionality in terms of being kind and showing that kindness, where the ones that are more relational, there's a kind of more of a natural, proclivity.
Yeah. It's easier.
That.
It's easier.
Yeah. And it can be easier.
Yeah.
But despite that side of the uniqueness, the expectation is the same.
Yeah.
That you're kind to others.
Things like working hard, contributing around the house, no matter the personality, no matter if they have just a ease with working hard, like getting in there, focusing, getting something done, or if it's harder for them to get a job completed. No matter what, we expect that all our children will work and do stuff at home.
Yeah. Here's an analogy maybe that's helpful for parents to think about. I know it's helpful for us, and we're parents, so maybe this will pass this on to you guys. But it's kind of like letting my kids out to the backyard and playing, right? There is a fence, and the boundaries are that fence. Like when their kids are younger, although our 21-year-old, we might say, hey, you need to stick by those boundaries too. But I let the kids outside and say, you can go play in the backyard. And I'm just concerned that they stay within the fenced area. I don't want them going out the side gate and wandering into the street. No, here's your boundaries. It's the fence. But within that fenced area, it doesn't matter to me whether you're playing on the swing set or throwing the ball around or,
picking flowers.
It doesn't matter kind of what you're doing uniquely in that area. But I'm concerned, and this goes for all the kids equally. You stay within the fenced area.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Hey, there when it comes to discipline and rules and the moral instruction and all that, hey, there's a fence.
Yeah.
And this applies no matter how unique you think you are. But what they do in the different areas, that's something to pay attention to with your kids.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where if you are visualizing the backyard, the fence, what makes up the fence, but then how they play in the backyard, what they decide to do as kind of how their personalities are and what they're drawn to. I think that is a good picture to think about.
Good, because it was my analogy, so I'm glad you think it's a good picture.
No, it was not your. I love how you take credit for that.
But that was my unique analogy.
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't know if I.
It's okay. Your memory is as you get older.
So
I just want to. Just for the record, I just need credit for that. So.
Well, you're not going to get it here. Okay, so thinking about that is helpful then in how you think about navigating life and nurturing them, discipling them, disciplining them, how they'll respond to things, what they'll be drawn to. I mean, this is helpful to think about, because then in those ways, knowing our child and their uniqueness really aids us in our parenting, in our walking alongside them, in our discipline, in our discipleship, in our training, in our habit forming, what we help them to develop good habits in. If you know your child and the way they tick, the things they love, the things that are weaknesses for them, this will aid you in your parenting journey.
Yeah. And, I just go back to the analogy with the fence thing. I was thinking, it's not just their uniqueness that gets expressed in what they play or what they choose to do, but it's their uniqueness and even the way they approach the fence. And I think that's what we were talking about earlier, is this even instructs us when it comes to some of their own moral struggles or that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I mean, this is actually, when you think about it, this is one of the really fun isn't the right word. It's like one of the really incredible things about parenting is that you get to discover this person that God made and put into your life.
I think that's a really good point to highlight. Like, we get to be students of our kids. And there's this discovery that comes with that.
Yeah.
And and when we pause for a moment and we kind of pull ourselves out of the busyness of life and go, I get to observe this kid for the next however many years, 18 years, 20 years, 21 years. Hopefully 21 will be the limit here in my house, at least.
Then you need to go.
Yeah, I've been a student of you long enough. No, but we get to discover, we get to watch this person unfolding. We get to see their personality emerge. We get to see the uniqueness of it. And that's just something I know I don't express that to the kids enough. Like, I appreciate your uniqueness. But we get to be students of that uniqueness.
Yeah. I'm thinking about, all three. So we have 2 boys and 3 girls. All 3 of our girls, to my dismay, loved playing with baby dolls and dolls when they were growing up. Now, I was a tomboy. I never really liked, probably when I was little, maybe I did. I should ask my mom. But just elementary school years, I wanted to play at recess with the boys on the field. I just was what back then was called tomboy. That word's not used anymore. Anyway, we have these girls, right? And all the girls, they love baby dolls. And so going back to me saying appreciating things that are different in your kids, I noticed right away with all three of them, they had this they were naturally drawn to these sorts of things. And I was able, after a little while, to see like, oh, this is good. This is a good thing. It's a sweet thing, even though it was different than me. I also think about, our kids who we noticed early on were kind of independent. They were, when they were little, it was like you would teach them how to tie their shoe, and then they didn't want you to help them anymore. They would say, oh, no, I can do it, or whatever. And you would notice when you take them to church and drop them off, or take them to grandma and grandpa's and drop them off, they weren't like crying because you were leaving. They were like, see ya. And they were more independent, and they were happy to be independent. So noticing things like that, what really lights them up, what they enjoy, is so it's really great to see. And then on the other side, you notice their struggles, and you notice what's hard for them. Of course, this helps you to comfort them, but it helps you to see things that are going to be hard for them, and how to reassure them, and then maybe how to push them in areas they need to be pushed.
Yeah. So for instance, our kids that were maybe younger, and kids change too. That's the other thing to say. As you're discovering their uniqueness, you'll also see it change in various ways, because like Micah, who now is 21, and anyone who knows Micah would say, yeah, he's a real outgoing kid. He's very relational. Yeah. Well, if you saw this kid 6 months ago, no, I'm just kidding. If you saw him when he was like 6 years old, you would see a very introverted, kind of withdrawn, shy kid. And so we knew that like kind of too much social time for him was a little just overwhelming at that point.
Yeah, it would drain him for sure.
And so with those kids with that kind of unique personality who are more introverted, hey, what they're going to need is maybe some a break from social time. And then this helps with kind of on the end of punishment for disobedience or something. You realize, hey, for that kid, timeout
is a reward.
It's like, timeout, mom, dad, me go to my bed by myself.
Especially in a big family where the house is always busy and crazy. If you say, hey, you're not listening well, go to your room. You're in your room for 30 minutes. They're like, sweet, perfect. That's actually really good for me.
Yeah.
So it might not, in a discipline situation, it might not be actually effective because it doesn't really get their attention that, hey, this isn't going to fly with mom kind of thing. But I do remember, for example, you brought up Micah, but when he was even little, 4 and 5, he would say, are we going anywhere today? Can we just stay home? And so like in his little way, he was telling me, I need some time at home. And he'd say, I just want to play with my Legos all day long, and he just wanted quiet and not to have to run around and go and do all these things. Yeah. He is more outgoing, but he still is kind of more of a homebody that way. And so knowing him and knowing his personality is helpful.
Yeah. And not only are we to discover our kids' unique personality, but we're also to appreciate it. And that's where we have to be real careful in kind of comparing kids because they are unique. And to not say, hey, your brother's so outgoing and he, and say those kind of things to kids, but appreciate the uniqueness of that individual kid, whether they're the outgoing or the introvert, or whether they're, more social or less social or more intellectual or more relational. It's not just to discover those things, but then also appreciate them for who they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I think is, as I said before, is a little more challenging with the kids that maybe are different than you, or, if you have stepkids if you're in a, blended marriage. And so you haven't known these kids as long. And so it takes time, of course, to get to know kids. But if they're different than you, it's difficult sometimes to appreciate kids and to naturally relate to and want to spend time with the kids that are like you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it takes intentionality, especially with the ones who are different, to spend time with them and get to see them in lots of different situations. And you get to see the value of how God wired them and made them. So I'm thinking of one of our kids who's just so extroverted, and he's the most extroverted, and he happens to be our last kid. But one thing that I've noticed...
Which one is that?
Your son, Jonah.
Oh.
So one thing I've noticed about him is that he has no social fear whatsoever. So he will talk to anybody. And even if someone's sitting there quietly, he'll just go up and start talking to them. And so one thing that I have said to him many times that I love about that part of his personality is that he makes people feel like he sees them and cares about them because he goes and talks to them.
Yeah.
And so random people at the store, he will talk to, and they all of a sudden will have a smile on their face and get a kick out of this kid who was talking to them. But I told him, that really makes people feel like you care about them.
Well, I was just talking to a friend up in Minnesota. They had brought some of their students down on one of MAVEN's immersive experiences, and we were in Flagstaff, and that's where our immersive experiences, where we this particular one was an apologetic immersive experience, and we're teaching the students to learn how to defend their faith, know what they believe, but really why they believe it, be able to present the evidence for Christianity. And so one of the things that we do on those trips is we'll have the students do these conversational surveys. And there's a survey they use, which is a tool just to get into the conversation. But that can be a little intimidating for students. Mm-hmm. And Jonah was with a group of guys that were a little bit hesitant to engage. And this mom who had brought the students down said Jonah was like, when they went out, Jonah wanted to go with the group, and he went with those boys, and he ended up kind of modeling for them. And because he's got no social fear, he just jumps out there and approaches adults and says, "Hey, you want to take a survey?" And then kind of just pulled those guys along. And then they got into some really good spiritual conversations. And his whole unique personality helped facilitate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so seeing the good of that kind of personality, also, of course, what comes with that is that sometimes it's hard for him to be quiet. It's hard for him to listen.
And sometimes he processes out loud all the time. And I'm a little more introverted. And so that can be wonderfully tiring, if I can put it that way.
Yeah. And so seeing the good of it, and then also seeing where there's weakness in it. So I learned with him, especially when he was younger, and we had to go to times where we had to be quiet. Church, for example, or the doctor's office, for example, or just anywhere. Hey, we're going to this thing, and you're going to have to sit quiet.
Yeah.
And so I'd have to prepare him. I knew this was going to be very challenging for him. But I prepared him ahead of time as much as I could to try to set him up to succeed in different situations, knowing it's going to be a challenge, and saying, "Hey, we'll take a break. We'll go outside. We'll do this." But you can see how the good and the negatives that come with these kinds of different personalities, but how as a parent, knowing this stuff can help you to nurture them in a way that they understand, oh, this can be good, but this can also be bad.
Yeah. And to discover and to know your kid's unique personality, you mentioned this whole idea of being intentional. Mm-hmm. And I think a couple practical ideas on that, because if we're not intentional, we just get so caught up in the busyness of life. and then we miss out on some of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so one way that we've tried to be intentional as parents and really discovering our kids' uniqueness is just spending one-on-one time with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, doing a lot of traveling and speaking, I love to take the kids on a trip with me, and one at a time, because then I get, you of course get to know that uniqueness even more. But there's something about when you're with them one-on-one, and there's not other distractions. Other kids aren't distracting. Family isn't distracting. You just got all your attention on them. You're able to relax a little bit more, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And with being able to relax, it lends itself to just being more appreciative of it as well.
Yeah.
And so I think spending one-on-one time with kids is so key, because then you can ask them questions.
Mm-hmm.
You can check in with them on different things. And yeah, it gives you focused time with them to get to know that kid and their uniqueness.
Yeah. And on that idea of spending alone time with them, I think now knowing them again can be so helpful. So knowing your kids that are kind of morning people and they like to talk in the morning, that might be.
Oh gosh.
Brett is not a morning person. So morning time might be the best time to connect with them. So that might be the kid that you say, hey, let's get up early, go get a donut. Or when they're older, go get coffee and sit and talk. And if they're morning people, I mean, you are getting them at their prime time.
Yeah.
And then there are kids that are more night owls or more processors. So you pick them up from school, you say, how was your day? Fine. And that's about all you're going to get. But maybe later on, once they decompress at home, a lot of times, especially in the teenage years, it seems like the universal time with all teenagers is late at night that they want to talk. But knowing that about them will aid you in your connection with them.
Yeah, and then it's also good to help your kid know your uniqueness. So our kids should know, like, don't approach dad early in the morning, because it's not going to go well. Okay. But I talked about taking kids on trips with me, and of course you can do that, and that's great. And even planning, and what we've done is we've done some planning where, like, I will take, one of the kids on an overnight trip. Doesn't have to be on a plane trip. Or we've put on the calendar, okay, here's a time for mom and, this kid to go together. And, you could do those things, and those are great, and they're wonderful, but it doesn't always have to be something big like that. It could be, hey, I'm going to the grocery store, and the rest of the kids, you stay here with mom, or you stay here with dad, and, Micah, you're coming with me. Or maybe it's not the grocery store. Maybe it's a task at home, cooking dinner. So kind of, you're in the kitchen together. It's just you one-on-one. And I mean, there's just all, doing yard work.
Yeah. Sometimes it's letting one of them just stay up later and putting everybody else to bed. And then they get to stay up a little later and talk with mom and dad. And there's all kinds of ways you can carve out alone time with your kids. And that time is so precious because you are getting to hear from them, connect with them. And we just, like you said, there's something about it where you listen better. All the other distractions of kids or life or whatever it is are gone. And you're able to really look at them and see them and then talk and hear their thoughts.
And now once you discover, your kid's uniqueness, and you see that, unique personality or their unique giftedness or their unique passions emerging, it's good to then verbalize that to them. And that is a great opportunity to kind of affirm them in that uniqueness. And of course, you're balancing that with, hey, you don't want to so emphasize these things that they try to put identity in those things, right? We're always grounding them in the Christian worldview and the Christian view of identity. And our primary identity is made in the image of God, and now in the New Testament era, we're in Christ, right? As redeemed new creations. That's our identity. I'm God's creation. I'm his child. I'm redeemed by Christ. I'm in Christ. But talking to your kid and letting him know how much you appreciate some of the unique things about them, and helping them, because I think in that process you also help them to discover it a little bit too, because they're you're looking at it from kind of the outside observer looking in, where they are they just might not be able to observe that about themselves yet at those younger ages. So you can help them to recognize some of their uniqueness and how there's specialness there, but then also how they can use that uniqueness to serve God and to serve other people.
Yeah. I'm thinking about how you don't want to like label them and put them in this box of like, oh, you're just the shy kid. That's who you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's such a better way to look at it. It's like, oh, I can see about you. You're thoughtful. When people say stuff, you really think about it. Or when people ask you a question, you really think about it before you answer. You don't just speak. Or you are a really good listener, and saying something like that to your kid instead of just like, oh, you're shy, so it's hard. You're shy. And then that can just kind of put them in this box of like, oh, this is just how I am kind of thing. And it doesn't really help them to see the good of it, the benefit of it. Of course, if they do tend to be shy or whatever, then you're helping them to see, hey, do you notice when people greet you, I know it's hard for you to say hi back, or you get a little nervous, but you need to say hi, back to them or whatever. So you're recognizing the good again, but also understanding the weakness.
Yeah, and our emphasis in kind of the praise that we would offer our kids in the affirmation was always more centered on character as well.
Yeah.
And their moral formation. So yeah, you have to be careful on how much you emphasize kind of the unique giftedness or athletic talent or, whatever. We definitely put a heavy emphasis on character formation. In fact, we would pay the kids, this is back in the days before inflation, but we pay them $1 every time that they got a compliment on their character. And that was just a way to kind of emphasize character. So that's always at the forefront, but it doesn't mean that we can't also help them or affirm them in some of that special uniqueness.
Yeah. And actually we gave the example of our extroverted child, but to give an example from one of our introverted children, who I won't say the name because that would embarrass them. But I'm just thinking about how they are so gifted in being a good listener, and how our one child who's just has no problem being not meeting new people, will talk to anybody. He also has kind of a short attention span. He'll sit there for a little while, talk, and then he'll go and move on and do something else, where I saw the great benefit of one of our kids who is very introverted and thoughtful and a really good listener, has been such a gift to my dad, for example, who had a stroke and can't talk. And this child will sit with him and she's good to just sit there.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have to fill the air with chit chat or whatever. She's content. There's a contentness in her when times are quiet and it has to be quiet or whatever. And seeing that has been another time where I've thought, oh, this is the good about the way God has wired her. And you see how these strengths come out in all these different situations. I'm not introverted. It's never, I haven't really struggled with shyness. So maybe it would be harder for me to see the good in it, but man, have I really seen the good in these different personalities that our kids have.
Yeah. And that's where you can affirm how they can use their unique personalities in ways that just reflect the love of God to friends, to family, to neighbor, and it's not merely a liability, right? Like, so that shy kid who's okay with just sitting there and being quiet. Well, that being shy isn't just a liability, but there can be a gift there as well. And what that shy kid often does is they recognize other shy kids, right? Or they can relate to that. They can relate to some of the discomfort with some of the social situations, and they can help others in that.
Yes.
And so I think just being intentional and talking about those kind of things, drawing those out, is so good for our kids.
Yeah.
So that they don't, because this is what we do in the culture, and it'll be teachers, and it'll be grandparents, and it'll be others around who will say things like, "Oh, you're so shy," right? As if it's just a liability. And we want to help them see, hey, actually every strength is kind of a double-edged sword. There's a corresponding weakness. And so our kids who are maybe less relational, they seem to be a little more kind of black and white, but they have a stubborn streak to them that has been really good when it comes to their moral stance. Whereas our kids who are maybe more relational, they're more swayed by their friends. Now, the great thing is that they can be friends with anyone. They can make people feel welcome, and they'll care for people, or they'll recognize people. They're just so social and so relational. The flip side of that, the downside of that, can be that they're more influenced by those around them.
Yeah, peer pressure for our kids who are more relational. Peer pressure it's a big deal. It's been hard for them to navigate because who they're with really impacts them because they're pulled by people so much. The kids who are more stubborn and, like you said, see things black and white, they aren't as easily pulled that way.
Sometimes you like, do you give a crap what people think?
Oh my gosh.
And they say, no, don't care. But it can, but then there's a downside to that as well, right? So they can be less sensitive to others.
Yeah.
And so just recognizing that uniqueness draws out the strengths and weaknesses, and just helps you to guide your kid.
And I think just, as we started the podcast, just thinking about, as parents, knowing our kids' uniquenesses and putting it in a Christian worldview where we actually see, of course, sin plays a role, but God has designed each one of our kids in a unique way. We get to discover about them how God has made them. We get to see the good of it. We get to see how sin has tweaked it and makes them weak in some areas. But that being a parent to our kids, the kids in our lives, is really such a gift. And we can love them and love the way they're uniquely made if we understand these things about human beings, and then if we spend time really getting to know them in a deep way.
Yeah. And you know what would be a really cool, this could be a real practical thing that parents could do, is to maybe keep an individual journal on each one of your kids. And as you discover things through the years, you write them down. And as unique stories come up or things happen that reveal that person, to write those down.
Yeah.
And that would be a great gift to be able to show your kid later on.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, just in full disclosure here, we haven't done that. So we've deprived our kids of that
it's a
gift.
Great idea.
It's a great idea. I just
thought
thought
of that 20 years ago.
It was a stroke of brilliance right now at this moment. And our kids missed out on that, but your kids don't have to.
Well, another practical thing to do is just, as you're discovering things about your kids. So if you are married, that you spend intentional time talking about your kids with each other. And I don't just mean like, okay, he has to be at soccer at 4. Can you pick him up? But like, hey, this happened today and he got so upset about it. And I'm kind of trying to figure out why. Or, hey, I noticed this about her and it seemed like it it really affected her, or man, she lit up when this happened. Like she was in her element. And do you think that this is something about her personality that's really good, or, whatever, but you're sharing insights that you're seeing. Now, of course, I mean, in our situation, I was staying home with the kids. Plus, I think in general, moms have kind of an intuitiveness. Yeah. And so it can really be helpful to share with dad.
Yep.
Or with mom, of course, but like, hey, this happened today. And it helps us when we share these insights with each other, to know our kids better, to get your perspective, for you to hear my perspective.
Yeah. I will 100% agree with that. I think it's been really helpful to me as a dad when you share some, your insights on a kid. Oftentimes I feel like, oh gosh, I didn't notice that, or I wasn't observing that, or, and there is something about moms, I think dads can really kind of lean on when it comes to this. And it's helped me to be more sensitive to the uniqueness of each kid, and to respond, appropriately. And so I think you've been really helpful, in helping me as a dad recognize that, so we can play a good role like that as partners.
Yeah, and having intentional time doing that instead of maybe in the heat of the moment. Like I'm thinking about one of our girls who's super sensitive, and when she was like 3 or 4, and one time you raised your voice, and told her to do something, and her lip just started quivering, and you sent her to her room. I forget what happened, but anyway,
I'm sure it was well justified. She was naughty.
Well, I didn't say something in the moment because I knew you were frustrated with her, but later on when you had cooled down,
I never parent out of frustration. Please don't say that.
I said to you, I think it just seems to me like when you raise your voice with her, she just crumbles. And I don't think with her, you even need to raise your voice. Like your voice is deeper than mine. So when you raise it, it sounds different than when I raise my voice.
No, I have a strong, powerful voice.
Oh my gosh.
You're correct about that.
But anyway, I just noticed that about her, and it has actually been true about her entire life. Like you don't have to raise your voice with her. You can give her a look and she will tear up and start crying. And so, but that sort of thing of like sharing insights, like I noticed that, and it seems like with her, if you respond the same way you do with our stubborn son, who you kind of have to raise your voice with to get his attention, that's not going to work with her.
Yeah.
But remembering we're allies in the parenting thing. And
well, it reminds me of when Micah was like, he was whatever, 6-8 months. And, you were there, you had said there was one incident, and I think we've shared this before, where he crawled over to the bookshelf, started pulling books off the bookshelf. And then you picked him up and said, no, Micah, and put him in the center of the room and pushed the books back on. He just crawled back over, and you said, no, Micah, and you put him back. And like, he looked at you and he went, and just clenched his fist.
Grunted at me and gave me a dirty look.
Yes, he did at 6 months of age. And there was a point where you just realized, gosh, this kid is there's this stubborn streak in him. But I was able to say, yes, and we have to be aware of that, and we have to work with that. But it's not just a bad thing. This stubbornness could be good. It could be good if he's stubborn for the Lord, and if he's stubborn for righteousness. Yeah. And we've seen that. Yeah. We've seen that, and there's a flip side of it. And so that's just where moms and dads can really help each other.
Yeah. And it is helpful. So if you're a single parent, or parenting with step parents, or parenting with grandparents, anytime you can share insights or be open to hearing insights from the other parent or the grandparent who babysits a lot, or whatever it is, if we can be allies for the kids with either our spouse or the other people around us, it aids us in relating to them and loving them really in a proper way. Because one thing again that we do with all of our kids is we tell them that what we are after is their good. We want their good, more than we want just their happiness in a certain moment or time.
Yeah, because they're unique. That pursuit, the guidance is unique to the kid.
Yeah.
And so I hope this episode has encouraged you parents out there to just become, better students of your own kids and to work hard, be intentional, to discover their uniqueness, appreciate it, and even give thanks to God for your kids' uniqueness. MAVEN exists to help the next generation know truth, pursue goodness, and create beauty for the cause of Christ. Through your generous financial partnership with MAVEN, you are having an impact on the lives of students and families across the country. To become a monthly partner, visit maventruth.com and click on the donate button.